Hi, I'm Henry LaBounta. I'm a studio art director from EA Ghost, and I'm really thrilled to be here at the View conference again.
So talk a little about the conference. What are your thoughts about the conference and also this new OGR location?
Yeah, this is a great location. Now, I don't know if you know, but I've been coming to this conference for a few years. It was called Virtuality in the 90s. I was talking about some visual effects work I was doing in the late 90s, I believe it was. And Maria Elena is amazing. She always surprises me in what she comes up with, and this location's fantastic. It's nice to have a bigger space like this for the conference. Yeah, it's been so much fun over the years coming.
When you look at your background from visual effects to video games, and then you look at the speakers here, what's it like to see that confluence happening in real time with VR, mixed reality, gaming, visual effects?
Yeah, well, we've talked about over the years, film and games, and as they merge, and they do merge at conferences like this. And one of the things I love about View is just the caliber of speakers they get here. It's inspiring to just come as a speaker to hear other speakers. And on top of that, it's a small enough conference that you get time to spend with them. You have the speaker dinners, and you get to really get to know some of your colleagues in the industry, but from all over the industry doing all these different things. So it's nice to get that variety for sure.
And I also wanted to ask you, because we are in Turin, Italy right now, and I know you are based both in San Francisco and London, but if you could talk about the global nature of the video game business today.
Yeah, the work we do is taking place all over the world. It's amazing how many different locations EA has, for example, but games especially is an international business. And VFX is to a degree too, but there's bigger hubs that way. So I think anywhere on the planet is a legitimate place to be talking about games. I was actually at a conference in Tehran last year, a games conference. So games can be made anywhere, and there's people that love playing games, and people that want to make games. So it's really exciting to see that happening across the globe in all different cultures, all the interesting things they come up with that we may not have come up with just in the States, for example. Yeah.
When it comes to this conference, there's a lot of young high school, college age students that are looking to potentially get involved in the gaming industry. What's it like for you to be able to speak directly to that next generation of talent?
Well, there's a lot of interesting opportunities in games, technical and creative and management type positions. So, kind of no matter what your background is and your interests are, there may be an opportunity in games for young talent like that. I guess my biggest advice, because I get asked this quite a bit, is, do something you're really passionate about. If you really love what you're doing, literally, you'll never work a day in your life. That expression is true. It's just, when I go to work in the morning, I'm so excited to be there. It's fun to do what we do. We're making games for a living. How bad is that? I think if people really apply themselves and put a lot of effort into it, and find that thing that's magic for them that they're really excited about, you could have an amazing career in games easily.
How have you found your background in Hollywood visual effects help in the video game industry as it has evolved?
It's helped a lot. And when I first started working in games at EA in Vancouver, 2001, 2002, was on SSX3, the snowboarding game. And I came into games with all this visual effects stuff, asking all these stupid questions. Can we do this? Can we do that? Everybody's like, oh, he's going to ask for the moon. We can't do any of that stuff in games. You know what? Like 90% of the stuff I asked for, we actually got in the game. I'm really surprised with a talented group of engineers and technical artists and producers and designers, how much is possible. And it's sometimes just balancing. You can't do everything at the same time, but if you kind of tweak things, it's amazing, what you can do. That was PS2 days. We're generations past that now, and even more is possible now. So I think there's a lot of film companies that are using game technology right now to pre-visualize what they're doing. And there's even talk about using game technology, real-time engines, to produce final content as well. So we are at that point of merging right now. Work that a creative person might be doing in games or film or VR, they're all using similar game engines in different ways. So there's a lot of overlap there.
When it comes to your background, back in the early days when you were first at EA, that was back when there was still a lot of Hollywood video game adaptations. That kind of has gone the way of mobile these days. Can you talk a little about, in general, how Hollywood background is helping just with games that have nothing to do with a Hollywood IP, but just gaming itself today?
Yeah, well, filmmaking is about telling stories, and in games, that's an important thing to players as well. They want a story, they want a reason to keep playing, something to care about in the game. So I think taking that sensibility into games is a huge step forward for games and really important. I think also in Hollywood and filmmaking, there's a certain level of production value, just the polish and quality you get into the visual effects you make, for example. And now games engines are more and more capable of delivering that. At EA, we're using the Frostbite engine, which is super powerful. And I'm constantly surprised by stuff I asked for. I was like, yeah, this is never going to work. I'm like, oh yeah, we can do that. It's like, really? So it's like being a kid in a candy store in a way, taking some of those things I've learned from film, and maybe in the past I wasn't able to use, but remembering those and seeing techniques I'm seeing people do at conferences like View, and applying those to games, and taking that next step further in games is pretty exciting that way.
When it comes to the game industry over the last few years, we've made the leap to 4K and HDR. How have you seen that impact what you guys are even able to do with the last Need for Speed?
Yeah, well, HDR I think is huge for me. As an art director, I really care about color, and I really care about dynamic range. In my talk today at the View conference, I'm going to be talking about contrast, and HDR is just like, just getting those really bright whites and deep blacks, such a big difference to the quality of the image. And so that I'm particularly excited about. And 4K is cool too. I think a lot of things will go 4K. Personally, for me, it's not about the quantity of pixels, it's about the quality of pixels. HDR is the thing I'm particularly excited about. And it does change the way we think about games and the way we develop them. You have to take into account, well, what's the UI doing? It's not just about how the lighting's reacting to HDR. Every element has to react to HDR in the correct way. Visual effects, too, in the game, where you have additive elements like fire and light sources and stuff like that, are they all balanced with the light sources that are in the world and the lighting you're doing and the sky and all those things? So, it makes it a little more challenging, but the results are so much better. So it's exciting. I think players are really going to appreciate what we can do there.
And the results, even for, again, the last Need for Speed, very, very much photorealistic. When you combine what you guys were doing with the live actors, with the cars and the switch between the two, I remember back in the day, cutscenes looked nothing like gameplay. Right. And now both kind of look like real life.
Yeah. Well, we're using the same kind of techniques we use in film, with full performance capture. We're casting Hollywood talent, so that entire process of doing cinematics in games these days is very similar to film. We're getting the same kind of performances you get in film, and adapting it for the game engine, of course. But being able to make that more of an interactive experience where you can play and enjoy it versus just a linear storytelling experience brings a new dimension to it, I think.
I know we talked a little bit about your Hollywood background to gaming, but how are you still seeing the Hollywood industry learn from or be inspired by gaming?
I hear more and more about movie studios, especially visual effects studios, using game engines in different ways. I know one way for quite a while people have been using game engines is just to pre-visualize what's going on in a scene. And that totally makes sense and unleashes a whole lot of power for the director. Since so many things are CG these days, the director's ability to be able to see what the camera's going to see when it hasn't even been created is absolutely huge. And I think also, GPU rendering for effects is something that's kind of new to visual effects, or newer, which is a standard thing that's been done in games for a long time. There's a lot of techniques that games have used for quite a while that I think film has adopted. So there's a lot of cross-pollination. There's a lot of talent going back and forth too, between the two industries. Yeah.
And then you also have this entire virtual reality, mixed reality world business kind of come up in between these two things.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that makes it even more interesting, because definitely you're going to be using some kind of game engine to do that. But of course, Hollywood filmmakers are interested in the VR space, so that's kind of pulling them into the game world space as well. And there it becomes a new challenge, because it's not just about how amazing can we make this look, but it's got to be an interactive experience. So you really have to be thinking about game design in VR more so than just I'm watching a movie in a different way with these head-mounted display, and I think there's a lot of creativity going on in that space right now. But a lot of companies trying to unlock that magic experience. Yeah.
When it comes to the future of game development, what excites you about what's forward? Went from a tech, art, all the stuff we've talked about.
To me, one of the most exciting things is the social aspects of games. Games has the potential to connect so many people over the world, and not just in multiplayer, in different ways. That's not something you get from a movie experience. Maybe you get it from a VR experience, but that ability to, regardless of location and time zone, and what culture you're from, being able to bring the world together and share an experience, I think is super exciting. And that might sound odd coming from an art director. I should probably be telling you about some new rendering technique that's really cool. I kind of feel like the shiniest pixels are something that is important, something we focused on for a long time, but there's a lot more to the experience than that. And I think the social aspect for me is one of the more exciting aspects. Yeah.